I just can't believe we're already a month into 2025. Where has the time gone? But welcome to our music showcase. I'm Bryer and welcome back to another video. And in this one, we are doing the first CD haul of 2025. And we have a lot to show as usual. I think we have close to 60. I don't think we have 60 exactly, but just about so. So it's going to be a long one as usual, so if you enjoy these CD haul videos, please give them a like, subscribe if you are new, and just for the heads up in case people who are new and don't know, again, I'm just showing the CDs I bought throughout the month, and I'm giving my first impressions. So they're first impressions, these are not like full in-depth reviews, because my opinion could change as the year progresses. And of course, these are all contenders for my top 50 discoveries of 2025, so that's another thing to look forward to at the end of the year. So without further ado, let's just jump right into it. What I'm going to do, I'm going to divide this video into different sections, and in this section I'm going to go through all the CDs that were given to me. So the first person I want to shout out is of course my good friend Jason the Old Millennial. These are 2 CDs he sent me for Christmas, and we're going to highlight them right now. So the first one that Jason sent is this Carrie Underwood Christmas album, aptly titled My Gifts. According to him, this is actually one of his favorite Christmas albums. And of course, he knows I don't have that many of them in here, so I might as well have some more. And he's not the first time he sent me a Christmas album. But Carrie Underwood, so I know her, of course. You know, she's a pretty well-known country artist, pretty big, I must say. And yeah, this is now the first ever Carrie Underwood album in the collection. And my thoughts on this one is that I quite liked it. I think, of course, she has a great voice. I do like her voice quite a bit. I wouldn't say I love it. It's not my favorite Christmas album, but there's definitely some nice songs on here, some good versions of songs that I know that she does fairly well. Out of all the songs in this one, I think my favorite one by far is going to be Sweet Baby Jesus. I really enjoyed that one. I like the music behind it, and again, she sings it very well. So overall, very solid Christmas album. I quite liked it quite a bit. So that's the first one that Jason sent. And the second one, I'm actually kind of surprised he actually sent me this. It's another Christmas album, and it's by Bob Dylan. This is his Christmas album, Christmas in the Heart. So this album has a reputation among Bob Dylan fans to an extent. For one thing, you're like, what? Bob Dylan doing a Christmas album? Well, he did. This came out in 2009. And again, it's just one of those things like you just can't compute. For many years, I always assumed Bob was deliberately trolling. Like he just made this purely just to mess with people. But of course, granted, I had not heard the album prior, and when I actually sat down and I listened to the whole thing, I came to the conclusion that, holy crap, he's pretty serious. Like, it actually sounds like he's actually trying, and I am just bewildered. Like, it's just so weird hearing him do some of these Christmas songs. And especially because he's a lot older, his voice is a lot gravelier. And it's like, it's complicated right now because on one hand, I want to dislike it, but on the other hand, it still somewhat fits in Bob's whole mythos. Because I always get the impression that, yep, I made a Christmas album. This is it. Take it for what it is. If you love it, great. If you don't, I don't give a f***. So that said, it's an interesting Christmas album. Is it the worst thing I ever heard? Probably not. But yeah, I don't have a strong opinion on it, honestly. It's kind of one of those things you have to listen to believe. And so the last question I have for myself is this an album I will play happily during the Christmas season?
No!
So this next CD was sent to me by another friend of mine, and that of course is Scott over at SoundLab Studios. And the album he sent is X and Y by Coldplay. It's their third studio album. And yeah, so now officially I have the first 4 albums from Coldplay. Of course, I have Parachutes, Rush of Blood to the Head, this album, and Viva La Vida. Gotta say it right. And like, I'm not gonna say the full title of that one. But yeah, X and Y, like I said, their third studio album. And I've said this before that I actually dig Coldplay quite a bit. And this album in particular, I really like. I'm going to be honest, it's probably my least favorite of the albums I've heard. If I were to kind of, off the top of my head, rank the 4 albums I've heard, I would say A Rush of Blood to the Head's number 1, Parachutes is number 2, Viva La Vida, number 3, and then this album would be number 4. But that said, I still think there's some really strong stuff on here. I like Square One, I liked What If. Of course, has the big hit Fix You. Talk, X and Y, title track's interesting. Yeah, it's a very solid album. It just has a lot of those early Coldplay elements that I dig a lot. But like I said, I think other albums done them a bit stronger, but that's just me. But yeah, thank you, Scott, for sending me another Coldplay CD. Sorry to interrupt the video, but there's actually one more CD that Scott sent me, and you can see it in my hands. It just arrived, so obviously it's not in the CD haul itself, but it's still technically January by the time I'm recording this, so why not include it anyway? So let's open this up and let's see the last CD that Scott sent. Okay, I can already tell the band. I could tell by the album cover. And we have Make Believe by Weezer. I don't know if you can see that. Probably it's not in focus, but yeah, so I now have 3 Weezer albums in my collection. Of course, I have the Blue Album, I have Pinkerton, and now I have Make Believe. And this came out in 2005, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 2005, that's what it says. And I know it has the big hit Beverly Hills, which was a pretty notable song on here. But everything else I'm kind of not as familiar, so it might be interesting. So there we go. So these are 2 very nice Christmas gifts. So thank you, Scott, for sending me Coldplay and Weezer. Back to the video. And now we get to the ones that were sent to me from Mickey. I just recently made a video on his recent package, and now we get a chance to talk about them. So the first one we'll show is the one I was most anticipating, and that of course is Charity Ball from Fanny. And I'll say it again, of course, Fanny were a very influential all-female rock band in the early 70s. Again, played a huge role for other female bands moving forward. And I've heard of them, but I have not really dived deep into them. And so when I got this one, I was like, wow, this is going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to this one. And you know what? It did not disappoint. I really had a fun time with this one. I think the guitar work is great. It's some really good bass playing. I know the guitar player and the bass player are sisters, and they both sound really great. And there was some nice keyboard playing, some nice drumming. It's actually very good. I don't know what type of rock you would say. It's kind of, it's just like your general rock. Like think of just early 70s rock music. This is what you get, and they do it fairly well. I mean, there's songs like Charity Ball, which is really good. What Kind of Love, Cat Fever, Soul Child, Girl the One. Overall, I think this was a very strong album. There was no song I thought was not as good or songs that disappointed me. It was pretty solid the whole way through. So this was a really nice pick. I definitely want to check out more Fanny in the future. So that was a very nice thing that Mickey sent. And this one, I'm going to talk briefly. I have this Jimi Hendrix compilation. It's actually, according to Mickey, it's gone by many names. This could also be considered like a BBC session. So it's kind of a live album, kind of not. It's kind of a weird mixture of the two. But I just want to shout out because it has some rarer songs in here that you don't really hear too often, some covers. But it still has some big songs that we all know, like, of course, Hey Gio and Foxy Lady. Very cool. Of course, I have more Jimi Hendrix. Like I said, there's a box set behind me. But now we have a bit more rarities from Jimmy. So I just want to highlight this real quick. Next one we have Robert Plant and the Strange Sensation with Mighty Rearranger. And so this is now the third Robert Plant solo album I have in the collection, and it's a very interesting album. Again, I can't really say I love Robert Plant solo stuff. Of course, I will say I think this might be my favorite of the three I've heard so far. It definitely has a much more proggy, I wouldn't say progressive rock, but it has a little bit of it. But it has a lot of world beat influence, which is interesting. And Robert sounds very solid here. It's a very interesting album. It has a cool vibe, which I dig. But again, like I said, I don't know if I love it per se, but I can respect it. So this is a very interesting one there. Now we get to this one. We have The Power Station. And it's actually a pretty notable lineup because you have some of the members from Duran Duran, one of the members from Chic, and I think there was another, I forgot the other guy. Robert Palmer, of course. Robert Palmer, I almost forgot him. I had a few comments on that video saying that they actually really enjoyed this album. And I was like, okay, let's see what it is. And after giving a listen, again, I don't want to say I don't like it, because again, these are just first impressions. But right now, I don't really say I'm digging it. It's fine. It's kind of has a bit of a rock feel and also a bit of a funk influence, which makes sense because you have one of the members from Chic on here, which, yeah, that checks out. But I don't know. Just the music side, it kind of got stale after a while. Like, it started off very good with the first song, Some Like It Hot, which was a single and was a big hit apparently. So I like that song. And then from that point on, it kind of gets hit or miss. I guess this was another hit with their cover of T-Rex's Bang a Gong. Yeah, I'm going to be straight up. I did not care for that cover. It was kind of whatever. And then the rest of the album kind of just moves along. Kind of goes in one year out the other. So, yeah, I'm going to be honest. It was okay, but I might give it another listen, but we'll see if my opinion changes. But I don't really see it, honestly. But still, definitely nice. Something nice to have more variety. Now, this next one, now you see it. It's definitely not in the same case that I showed before, because that old case was beyond fixing. So unfortunately, I had to get rid of it. So luckily I had this like spare, old-fashioned 2 CD case here. But in any case, it's Rainbow, and it's the Live in Munich 1977. Of course, came out way later. Came out in 2006. This might be a controversial pick or controversial saying, but I might actually prefer this over On Stage, which we'll talk about later. And I don't know why. Maybe because there's more songs on here. It's a bit longer, and I think the playing on here I prefer a bit more. You can say that On Stage has a better sound quality, but I don't know. I think the playing kind of outshined that whole aspect. Of course, you have Kill the King, Mistreated, 16th Century, Green Sleeves, Catch the Rainbow, Long Live Rock and Roll, Man on the Silver Mountain, Still I'm Sad, and Do You Close Your Eyes. Yeah, this was a great live album. Again, the Richie's playing and Ronnie's vocals are stellar, and you have great drumming from Cozy. It's a very great live album, so I'm very happy about this one. And then the last thing, Mickey Sense, and well, not the last thing, because he did send me Nielsen Schmulsen on a little sleeve CD, but I already have the album, so I'm not going to give you my opinion on it, but real quick, I do like that album. But the last thing I'll share from Mickey is this one right here, and that is Good to Be Bad from Whitesnake. This was actually their big comeback album after being dormant for a number of years. And yeah, it came out 2008, I think. And I think it's another very good album. Again, not like my favorite. It's not like the most amazing thing I've heard, but it's just Whitesnake doing what they're good at. Just this good, very heavy metallic, hard rock type of music. And David Coverdale, obviously his age is starting to show a bit more, but still I think he sounds very good here. Best Years was a good opening song. Call on Me, Good to Me. All for Love was really good. All I Want, All I Need was a very good song. I really dug that one. Till the End of Time. Yeah, again, not like top tier, but still has some very strong songs in here. I really dug this one. Yeah, I love Whitesnake, so there you go. And so those are the ones that Mickey sends. So again, Mickey, thank you as always. Alright, and the next category I'm going to show are albums I've shown before. These are the same CDs I showed in my recent record find video. And these are the 8 that I showed, and now you'll get my first impressions. So, I did talk about Rainbow not that long ago, but let's keep it going with their on-stage album. Like I said, I think I prefer the Munich one a bit more, because this one's a bit shorter, only 6 tracks. Again, the audio quality is really good, but I don't know, like I said, I still prefer the playing on the Munich one, just a slightly more. I can't really pinpoint it, but it just comes down to how Richie was playing that particular moment. Of course, Ronnie always sounds great, and he sounds great here, don't get me wrong. Still, if you love Rainbow, this is definitely a must-own. So, there we go. Want to get that out. Next one, we have Accept with Metal Heart. So this is their mid-80s album, definitely when they really went in that whole commercial-sounding field. And I really dug this one. I mean, of course, I enjoy Accept a lot. I have a few of their CDs, and I've always liked their sound. Great heavy metal band from Germany. Very badass vocals. Like the title track's great. Midnight Mover has a real catchy number. Wrong is Right. Dogs on Leads. You know, I do prefer when they are a bit more heavy, but when they do something a bit more commercial, they can pull it off really well, in my opinion. So there we go. That's Metal Heart from Accept. Okay, and then this one, I'll be brief. I also picked up Yellow Submarine from the Beatles, which closes out the Beatles discography on CD for me. And I pretty much said it in that video, but yeah, it's kind of whatever. I didn't really care for much of this. You know, it has Yellow Submarine, but that's on Revolver. So then you have All You Need Is Love, but that was on Magical Mystery Tour. You know, Hey Bulldog was good. Of course, that's another kind of nice classic song there. Only a Northern Song was fairly solid. All Together Now is okay. And then you have the rest, which I don't want to forget, it's all too much too. But the rest of the album is mainly instrumentals. Basically, the score from the movie, which are fine. But, you know, when am I ever going to listen to it again? So it's kind of a whatever Beatles album. Again, personally, I do not consider it canon, but what do I know? So there's that. Next up, we have the debut album of Blondie. Granted, I love Parallel Lines. I've said this many times. So I was very looking forward to check out their debut. And overall, it's pretty good. Again, they're still a new band, and you know, it's basically a blend of new wave, but it definitely has much more of a more punk rock sort of sound, which I don't mind. But because of that, there's not as much catchy hooks on here, which I loved about Parallel Lines. But if you like more punky Blondie, this is definitely one to definitely check out. Still, Debbie Harry's vocals are really top notch, and you know, the music is pretty cool. But yeah, I just prefer the more poppier side of Blondie. Again, that's just me. Some people might think this is better than Parallel Lines, but who knows. Still, it's a solid album. I really dug this quite a bit. Really, there's not really a song I didn't like. But then you have some weird titles like The Attack of the Giant Ants. Pretty random, but there you go. And now we have Thin Lizzy with Black Rose, a rock legend. Now this was something I was looking forward to, and it's another one of those albums where it did not disappoint. I really love Thin Lizzy. So far, there's not an album I did not like so far, and yeah, this one is also really great. Of course, you have Gary Moore on guitar, and his guitar playing is really top notch. Love his tone, and yep, just the whole rest of the band is just killing it. Again, no bad songs here, only 9 songs, but it's a very great hard rock album. Definitely one you have to check out. Yeah, there you go. Now we have the debut album of U2 with Boy. So yeah, just kind of slowly filling out some of the U2 discography. I know I've wanted the debut for quite some time, and this was another pretty good album. I really dug it. I already knew I Will Follow. That was the only song I knew for a long time, but I like Twilight. Twilight was pretty good. Into the Heart, The Ocean, A Day Without Me, Shadows and Tall Trees was pretty good. Yeah, definitely has that new wave post-punk sound, but I like that post-punk bit, so I really dug the sound of this one. Definitely has a different vibe. Of course, U2 would do many other things moving forward, but I think he started on a pretty strong note. So there we go, Boy. Joe Walsh with The Smoker You Drink, The Player You Get. Yep. Again, I knew Rocky Mountain Way before, but didn't know anything else, and this was another fun album. Yeah, I just really like the music, and Joe does some pretty good vocals. Like, you definitely hear more variety out of Joe, because for a long time I had the stereotype of what Joe Walsh sounds, but here he definitely demonstrates a little bit more than what I'm used to, which I really think he pulls off fairly well. Bookends is good, Midnight Moody's, Happy Ways, Meadows, Days Gone By. Again, not a long album, but it's still very good. I really dug this one as well. So yeah, Joe Walsh. Definitely thinking about getting more of his. And the last one I picked up from Record City was Neil Young's On the Beach, not Off the Beach, like I did. In any case, so many people have said that this is one of Neil Young's best albums, and so I was very much looking forward to it. And am I one of those people that thinks it's one of his absolute amazing albums? Yes and no. I hit the mic, but yeah, yes and no. I think it's a very good album. Again, it's definitely his more rocking albums, where the electric guitar is more prominent than the acoustic guitar. And I really dug that. But overall, it was very solid, but nothing quite amazed me. Again, Neil sounds good. The band was sound really strong, but I don't know. The songs themselves just kind of they weren't forgettable. But yeah, I was just maybe I was expecting a bit more rock. Maybe my expectations was a bit too high. But who knows? Again, these are first impressions. My opinion could change on this album, but right now I like this album a lot, but not my favorite. I still prefer albums like After the Gold Rush or Harvest. But yeah, this is still very good. Again, definitely should give it more listens though. But yeah, don't hate it. And there we go. That concludes that portion. So this will be a quick section because these CDs I'm going to show were stuff I found on Bandcamp. Yeah, so Bandcamp, definitely a different site. I plan to make a whole video on that website pretty soon. But these are four. Well, okay, it's kind of complicated. I'll explain why. Because I ordered 4, and you can see there are 4, but one of them was actually not part of this originally. So I'll go more about it. So real quick, the first thing I'm going to show, and by the way, I definitely want to shout out Daryl from the CD Rabbit Hole. He's actually the one who suggested some of these. So shout out to you, Daryl. Great channel, by the way. But the first one he suggested was a band called Sobs, and this is their album, Air Guitar. So Sobs are a band from Singapore, and they're definitely more of the indie rock, indie pop sort of genre. And I think maybe out of these 4 I have, this might be my favorite. I think it has a great catchy feel. I love the vibe they're doing. I like the vocalist too. You can definitely hear her accent, but I think it actually fits very well with the music. And from what I can tell, it's a trio. Only 3 members. You have a female and 2 males. Yeah, but overall, I think it's just a very, very good album. Very fun. Great guitar work, great keyboards, and I think I mentioned the vocals are really good, and some good guitar too. So yeah, me going to more indie music, starting on a strong note. Really dug this one quite a bit. Now the next one is from the band Rat Boys, and this album is called The Window. Another kind of indie rock sort of band, but this one was interesting because I looked up on Wikipedia, and this album is kind of labeled also in an alternative country, which I kind of hear because there are some songs that definitely have a little bit of a country edge. I wouldn't say it's a full-blown country album, but there's definitely little hints of it. Like there's sometimes you'll hear a slide guitar playing, and maybe some of the percussion gives off country vibes, but it definitely still has that rock feel. And this is a very, very strong album. I dug this one quite a bit. Again, another one that's fronted by a female. Actually, I think all of these are fronted from females. But it's a very good, very good. Sounds nice. Making noise for the ones you love is a good opening song. Morning Zoo definitely has that little bit of that country flair I was talking about. Yeah, very strong. I dig it. I definitely want to check out more of them. And now, kind of going off this album, because when I opened this album, I believe it was this one. I could be wrong, but when I opened this, I actually got a second CD for free. I did not order this one. It came with with this, and I was like, okay, let's see how this goes. So the band is called Sweet Pill, and this is their album, Where the Heart Is. So you see the album cover, you're kind of like, oh, this is kind of creepy. And fair enough, because I looked up on Wikipedia, they are definitely a emo band, an emo punk sort of band. And yeah, you definitely hear all that here. But when I say punk, it's not like you're big, aggressive, like those heavy, fast guitars. It's actually more nuanced, because you have that emo element in there, and it definitely adds a bit more melody to a lot of these songs. A big surprise for me, because I actually really dug this. It's actually my second favorite out of this batch I'm showing. Yeah, I like the vocalist, another female fronted one. Definitely has a cool vibe. Because of course, emo has that very, I won't say, I guess, depressing sort of sound. So it does have that, but hey, I like depressing stuff, so go figure. Yeah, I dug every song here, like the title track, Dog Song, High Hopes, Sucker Punch, Sometimes, Red String. It's a very good album, I gotta say. Again, I had zero expectation because I had no idea what I was getting myself into, but it actually paid off fairly well. So, Sweet Pill, good job on you. Of course, I heard this is their only album so far, because they actually released a ton of EPs, but this is their only full album. Very short, it's barely a half hour, but if you can get your hands on that, hey, maybe you like it. And the last one I'm going to show is the self-titled album from a band called Tallies. Again, still in the indie pop, indie rock sort of field, bit of new wave maybe. Yeah, very nice. Again, probably my third favorite of this batch here. It has some great keyboard playing, definitely adds different moods on here, and again, the vocalist sounds really good. I just dug it. It was just one of those things you kind of just lay back and just kind of chill out for a bit and just enjoy the music. Trouble, Mother's really good. Not So Proud, Eden, Giving Up, Rocks. Easy Enough's a good closing song. Yeah, not much else to say really. It's pretty straightforward. Probably the most straightforward, I guess, in here. But I really like this one too. So overall, these 4 albums I got from Bandcamp. Very happy, very much enjoyed a lot of these. Definitely going to experiment with Bandcamp a lot more. And again, like I said before, I do plan to make a whole video of my experience using Bandcamp. And I know I have one more on the way. But when that album comes, we'll include it in the video. But in any case, these albums, very good. Now, we have more Christmas albums. So I showed you a little bit before, but those are the ones Jason sent. But these Christmas albums are the ones that I bought, because even I knew I needed more Christmas albums. First one is from the Beach Boys. We have the Beach Boys Christmas album. Now, I actually own this on vinyl first. That's actually the only time it's happened where I bought the record before I bought the CD, but I knew I needed to get it on CD. So now that I have both, now I can actually talk about the album. It's a very solid Christmas album. I do quite like it. Of course, it has Little Saint Nick. That's probably the one song you're going to hear a lot. Probably the most out of all these songs. But overall, they do a pretty good job with a lot of these classics. And nothing amazing, but still, it's a nice feel. Of course, their harmony is still top notch. And, it's basically Bryan, again, trying to be like Phil Spector. But the production is very solid. It's overall a very pleasant Christmas album. Not my favorite that I bought. Still has some nice moments. Next one, we have Mariah Carey with Merry Christmas. Of course, it has the massive song. I'm sure the one that everybody knows, and the song that many people are sick of. Of course, I'm talking about All I Want for Christmas Is You. And, I get where people are coming from of it being very overplayed, but screw it. I still love the song. I'm not sick of it. I still enjoy it when it comes on the radio every once in a while. It's just a fun Christmas song. I don't know. That's just me. And you know what? Even though that's probably the big song everyone knows, the whole album is actually very good. I actually really liked a lot of her renditions of Silent Night, Oh Holy Night. Really liked her version of Christmas, Baby Please Come Home. Very great. Jesus Born on This Day is really nice. I think it's still a very strong Christmas album if you just kind of put your grudge against All I Want for Christmas aside. The rest of the album, I still think is worth checking out. So if it's the Christmas season, hey, maybe give the whole album a chance. And a little bit ago, I said that Bryan was trying to be like Phil Spector. Well, speaking of which, here we have a Christmas gift for you from Phil Spector. Now, this is where Phil brought in a lot of the groups he was working with. You have Darlene Love, the Ronettes, the Crystals, and they all came together and made this Christmas album. And you know what? It's probably my favorite of these Christmas albums. Just the production again. Phil Spector, he's dead, so, and he's probably in hell, but that aside, production is still very good. Always enjoyed Phil's production. And the songs here, some of them are classics, like you have, the Ronettes doing Sleigh Ride, and also Darlene does another great version of Christmas, Baby Please Come Home, which I just talked about with Mariah Carey. But it does end on a weird note with Silent Night, with Phil Spector just saying thank you to the audience, which is like, I don't want to hear you say thank you. But ignoring all that, it's a great Christmas album. Definitely one to listen to during the holiday seasons. Very fun. And the final Christmas album I'm going to show is A Charlie Brown Christmas from Vince Guaraldi Trio. This had to be one to get. Of course, I grew up watching Peanuts, and of course I watched the Charlie Brown Christmas special every year when I was a kid. I had it on VHS at one point. And the music to it is just synonymous. A lot of these are just iconic tunes like Linus and Lucy, Christmas Time Is Here, Skating, Christmas Is Coming. I love Christmas Is Coming. I love the piano playing. And Vince Guaraldi, he's definitely a gateway for a lot of jazz fans, and man, his compositions here are just absolutely timeless. Absolutely love a lot of this stuff here. What's interesting about this album is that this was actually a Starbucks. This is actually sold in Starbucks for some reason. I don't know the story behind that, but interesting. But the only downside of this particular Starbucks edition is that it actually drops one of the songs. I already forgot what it was called because it was actually not part of the special, I think. I guess that's kind of why they X'd that one out, but still I would have liked to get like a authentic track listing of it on CD. But you still have a lot of the more important stuff here. But still, it's still a classic Christmas album. Definitely another one that you should have if you're a Christmas music fan. And there we go. That's all the Christmas albums I'm talking about in this video. The rest are going to be all miscellaneous. Okay, so when I said there's going to be no more Christmas albums for the rest of the video? Well, I lied because I forgot I own this too. We have John Denver, Rocky Mountain Christmas. Saw this at a record store. I like John Denver. I'll pick it up. And it's a very nice Christmas album. I mean, if you like John Denver, you're definitely going to love this. For me, I thought it was pretty solid. He sings a lot of these songs very well. There's a couple originals here, which is kind of cool. But, it's very, very airy, kind of very kind of breezy. Again, a very chill album. But still, it has some nice singing, good playing. It's really simple, really. But besides that, it's pretty solid. I like this one. Just not my favorite of the Christmas albums I've talked about in this video. Next up, we have Gold by Ryan Adams. No, not Bryan Adams. I make that mistake too often. So I've heard a little bit of Ryan Adams. I've heard people talk highly of him. And this album is one of his best sellings, of course. And I'm going to keep this one brief because I'm going to be honest, I did not care for this album. It has like a country rock feel. And I don't know, it was just okay. His voice is fine. Just the overall music was kind of boring for me. Because I have when it comes to like country rock sort of thing, it could go either way. Either I'm going to love it or I'm going to think it's boring because, maybe the composition sounds generic to me. Doesn't really stand out. And, again, his vocals are fine, but again, just nothing really speaks to me. And there's even one song on here. It's a long album, too, and it doesn't help that... Which song was it? Oh, Nobody Girl. That was 9 minutes. And I just think, this does not need to be 9 minutes. So I think it's kind of overstays its welcome. But, it's okay. If you like this one, good for you. But right now, I don't really see it. But, what do I know? So these next three are from the same artist. Of course, by this point, he was a solo artist because it started out as a band. We got some Alice Cooper. And here we have three of the solo era. Now, I have quite a bit from the band period of Alice Cooper, but I have not checked out any of the solo stuff. So I chose these three because I thought, why not? And we're going to talk about them. So, of course, the first one we'll talk about is the first one, and that is Welcome to My Nightmare. And you know what? Starting out strong with this one because this is a great album. Of course, that's the title track, which is good opening song. Devil's Food's great. The Black Widow. Then you have dark songs, but still great with Only Women Bleed. Love that track. Department of Youth's good. The Awakening. It is a concept album, from what I could tell. I'm not going to tell you the story, but you can look that up on your own. But still, it is a very great album. Very fun. Has all those Alice Cooper isms that we know and love. Yeah, this was a fun one. But it's actually not my favorite. And that one is going to be this one. And that is From the Inside from 78. This totally blew me away. I love this one. Again, it's kind of, 78, and there's so many different elements to this one. There's has that rock, but also slight influence from a disco. Not too much. It's like very slight, but still has that creepy factor. Of course, this was recorded after a time when Alice was in an asylum to get over his alcoholism. And yeah, it just really does a great job reflecting it. And it was even a little fun fact: a lot of the songs were co-written with Bernie Taupin, who of course is known for his work with Elton John. Yeah, I enjoy this one. Album cover's creepy as hell, but still, the music within it is definitely worth it. Love this one. One of my favorites out of this entire haul. And then the last one I picked up is from the 80s. This is from 89. This is Trash. And it has the song Poison, which I knew that song already. That's a pretty big song for him, and I think that's great. But the rest of the album has some great moments too. Spark in the Dark, House of Fire is great. Bed of Nails, Hell is living without you. I'm Your Gun. You know, it has a very hair metal feel, but I love that sound, so it doesn't bother me. Very fun album, of course. Very heavy. There you go, Alice Cooper. Like, I definitely do want to check out more of the solo period. Who knows? Maybe we'll do a whole Alice deep dive at some point. So now we get to something more interesting. We got Everything Archie by the Archies. You know the Archies, that animated fake band from the 60s. Well, yeah, I bought an album from them. And the reason why I did is because, of course, me and the guys, we are getting ready for another album exchange. And this was Nick's pick. I guess he wanted to be different this time around. So, of course, I'm not going to give my thoughts on this one, but all you need to know is that, of course, it has the massive hit single Sugar Sugar on this. So if you love this song, you might like this album. Who knows? I mean, I do like Sugar Sugar. I have a sweet spot for that. Pun intended. Still, though, I'm not going to give you too much of my thoughts, but it's definitely interesting. You can let me know your thoughts if you were an Archies fan in the comments below. And now we have Arthur Brown's Kingdom Come, and this one's called Galactic Zoo Dossier. Hopefully I said that right. But yeah, of course, not that long ago I picked up The Crazy World of Arthur Brown, but now we have the band he formed after that band. And this is him doing a kind of more psychedelic, progressive rock, jazz, fusion thing. It's very weird. It's a weird album. Even weirder than Crazy World of Arthur Brown, if that makes sense. It's definitely a bit more out there. Maybe one I need to give more listens because it is very interesting, very fascinating. But there you go. Again, I got not much to say, but it's different. And now we have something a little interesting. We have Beyonce. I know, I'm getting Beyonce. I got this at a record store. I'm like, why not? So yeah, Beyonce, of course, a bit massive selling artist. One of the most best-selling female artists around. And this album came out in 2013, I think. It's just a self-titled album. And, you know, it's R&B. Pretty much, yeah. R&B, a bit of soul. And I kind of like this album, really. Again, I don't love it, but there's definitely some songs I really like. Probably my favorite song on this is a song called Jealous. Like the vocals on this one, and I do think Beyonce has really good vocals. She just sounds nice. But yeah, it just has some of those cliched R&B things. I'm kind of like, it's not my thing, but still there's some nice moments. So I definitely am glad to check out some Beyonce. Might check out more. Maybe she has an album even better than this. And here is an album I have seen many people talk about, and that is Charlie XCX. And this album's called Brat, if you couldn't tell. And, you know, there's some people who are probably like, who? But if you are in the know, then this album got a ton of press when this came out. I mean, this was basically the album of the year for a lot of people. For 2024, I should say. And I definitely was curious. Like, I had to give this a listen just to see where the hype's about. And I'll be honest. I like this album, surprisingly. But I know there's going to be a lot of people who, especially some of the people I know, if I tell people to check this album out, and they do, they're going to be very disappointed. Because they're like, really? This is album of the year for a lot of people? And I would not blame them, because it's basically like a dance pop album. Like, has a almost retro rave sort of thing. Kind of like something you hear in like dance clubs of that time period. But besides that, like I said, if you are not into like dance music or early 2000s like hyper pop music, yeah, you're not gonna think this is album of 2024. But I had fun with it. But that's just me, of course. I'm pretty open to that sort of sound. And she does have a nice voice. Of course, there is auto-tune, so again, if you don't like auto-tune, you probably want to stay away from this. And now we have The Cure with their latest studio album that came out last year in 2024. We have Songs of a Lost World. So, decided to check out Cure because many people say this is actually really good, especially this late in the game for them. And after listening to this one, I can see why. I like this album quite a bit. Robert Smith still has that voice that we know and love. Only not that many songs, and the last song and song's very long, but it has a lot of those tropes from The Cure we like. Definitely some nice. It has an emo feel, but it definitely has those good melodies, that very lush sort of melodies that Robert Smith composes, and the rest of the band really does a great job playing them. There's not a song I did not like, but if you don't like long intros, you're probably gonna think this is tedious, which I can understand. But still, I really enjoy this album, and yeah, definitely nice to own more Cure. Then we have Dream Theater with A Dramatic Turn of Events. Wow, didn't think I'd get more Dream Theater this early in the year. And of the ones I've heard, probably my least favorite. Again, I have not heard every Dream Theater album, but based on what I have and what I've listened to, definitely this album kind of drags out a bit more. Again, the playing's great still, but I think the songs just weren't as memorable. Many moments I was like, okay, all right, anything else? Okay, no, wait, we're still here. That has that sort of feel. So yeah, not my favorite Dream Theater album, but still, it's all right. With all this Bob Dylan hype, I picked up another one. We have John Wesley Harding from 1967. And this is another very strong album. This was post like his big folk rock period, and here's kind of going back to something a bit more stripped back on this one, and it's fine. I do like it, but I like going from the folk rock to this. It's kind of like, so it's fine, but still some good songs here. Like the title track's pretty good. Of course, it has the original version of All Along the Watchtower, which Jimi Hendrix would make even bigger. The Ballad of Frankie Lee and Judas Priest is pretty good. And there's a few other songs, but it's a very solid album. Not one of my favorites though. Probably, definitely not S tier. I'll put it lightly. Then we have the Eurythmics with Touch, and really I got this because it has Here Comes the Rain Again, which is a great song from them. I love that one in particular. And Annie Lennox has a good vocal too, but besides that song, the rest kind of falls flat. For me, at least. Again, it's a pretty big album for them, I guess, but I don't know. Just that synth pop just kind of wasn't quite memorable for me. It kind of another one of those albums where it's just in the ear, out the other. Didn't really get much out of it aside from the first song. But who knows? Again, could need more listens, but we'll see. And Billy Joel makes an appearance with Street Life Serenade. So I'm part of a series with the guys talking about Billy Joel's discography, and as of this recording, we haven't really gotten too far. I couldn't make it on the first album, but hopefully I'll be on the Piano Man review, and then from that point on I'll be in the series. But definitely wanted to fill in the gaps of my Billy Joel catalog or discography, and this is what I needed. And it's not one of my favorite Billy Joel albums. It's okay. It's pretty solid. I don't hate it, but there's definitely some instrumentals on here I'm like, I don't really care. And it's maybe another song I was like, that was okay. But there are still some nice songs here. But, again, not one of his strongest albums, I'll say. But still, not bad. Jefferson Airplane with After Bathing at Baxter's. I know my friend Nick is a big fan of this album. And am I one of them? Sorry, Nick. Yeah, it's okay. It's very psychedelic. Of course, this is the same year they released Surrealistic Pillows, which is their biggest selling album. And then we get this. Definitely a lot more out there. Very psychedelic. Maybe it's like too psychedelic for me. But there was some nice. There was a couple moments I liked, but as a whole, it's something. It's something. So I don't know. That's just me. Again, that's just me. But Nick, sorry, but at least I own it. At least give me that. And now we have something interesting. We have a band called Jellyfish, and this is their debut album, Belly Button. I know, quite a name, but I also got to showcase the booklet real quick because the booklet is a little something different. It actually expands. Whoa. Never had one of these before. So, that aside. So again, I think I've heard Jellyfish get brought up a little bit. And so I was in a record store and I saw this and I'm like, why not pick it up? And I'll be honest, I was pretty impressed. It has a very power pop feel. It's a lot of good catchy songs here, and I like the vocals on this. And yeah, it was actually a very good album. Probably my favorite song on here is I Want to Stay Home. Like, if you've not heard Jellyfish, I would suggest play that song. That's a really good track. Let's see. I think there was another song I really liked. I think it was Baby's Coming Back. That's another really good song. But wow. It came out in 1990. This is a very good one. So, yeah, I would recommend checking this one out. If you love that power pop feel, check it out. And one more thing I got to point out about Jellyfish is that there's one member in particular who is worth noting. And this man is known as Andy Sturmer. And he would go on, because, Jellyfish didn't actually last long. They only put out 2 albums and that was it. But Andy went out and he actually went to Japan and basically became a songwriter over there. And one of the acts he worked with was this one right here. And the band is called Puffy, or in America, they're known as Puffy Ami Yumi. Funny enough, I actually do know this band from long ago. Like, I remember very, very in the early 2000s when I was still 5 or 6. On Cartoon Network, they would play a cartoon called Hi Hi Puffy Ami Yumi. And, I was still kind of young, so I don't really remember most of the plots. But I have strong memories of the animation and just the overall wackiness of it. And it's basically just a fictionalized animated version of the band. And I also knew a lot of their music because they also provided the theme song to Teen Titans, which was also on Cartoon Network. So most of my 2000s is me hearing this band without even giving them a second thought. So I decided to check out an album from them, and this is called Nice. And there's actually 2 versions. There's the Japanese version and the US version, which I have right here. And it's actually the one reason I wanted to get the US version in particular, because I think the album cover is better. I'll show a picture of the original cover, and I think, what the heck is that? But this one I always get a kick out of because it's clearly a nod at John Lennon and Yoko Ono's in-bed protest in the late 60s. I just think it's kind of funny. But in terms of the music, it has kind of rock, there's a bit of pop, even a bit of ska, if you like that as well. And I had a great time with this album. This was actually another big highlight from this haul. I really like the first song, Planet Tokyo. Then you have Tokyo Nights, which is good. There's a song called Sayonara, which is actually my favorite song on here. I really love the feel of that one. Good keyboard underneath too. K2G, that's another good poppy song. That was actually another song played on Teen Titans during a chasing montage or something. And speaking of Teen Titans, the US version actually includes the full theme song to Teen Titans. So that's interesting. But yeah, I definitely want to check out more Puffy or Puffy Amiyumi, whatever you want to call them. Very fun band from what I've gathered. So there you go. And now we have Nightwish with Imaginarium. So this is the first Nightwish album I bought where it does not have their original singer. This is actually the second singer in their history. They had 3 in total. And yeah, I really like her vocals. Definitely has a more poppy sound, but I think it's very good. The playing on here is absolutely immense. Like, I really dug the overall theme of the album because it is kind of a concept album, and I believe it was meant for a movie as well. But you have songs like Storytime, Ghost River, I Want My Tears Back, The Crow, The Owl, and the Dove. It can be heavy, but also very beautiful at the same time. So this was definitely another good one in here. So Nightwish, Imaginarium. And now we have a compilation of Luciano Pavarotti. I know, how random could I get by getting a Pavarotti compilation? Of course, if you don't know, I don't know how you would not know, but Pavarotti is one of the most renowned opera singers. Of course, he's no longer with us, but when he was alive, he was one of the big names of opera. He was basically the rock star equivalent. He was basically the opera's own big rock star because of just how much he crossed into different genres later on. Because he started collaborating with a lot of Western artists, like James Brown, even a lot of British bands. He did, because this compilation also includes a collaboration he did with Eric Clapton, and even Frank Sinatra too, and Sting. So that's interesting. But I guess I got into a little bit of a Pavarotti kick because I've been starting to listen to his singing, and I just absolutely got blown away because I knew he was good, but after really listening to it, it really was like hitting a chord. So I got this one. It has 50 of different recordings he did, 2 discs, so you have a good estimate of pretty much his career for the most part. But yeah, just wanted to showcase this one. Not much else to say. If you like opera, of course you want to get something like this, but if you don't like opera, you can keep moving. And now I have 2 albums from this artist, and that artist is Frank Sinatra. Yeah, you all know Frank Sinatra, one of the great crooners of the 40s, 50s onwards. And I bought 2. So the first one I'll show is In the Wee Small Hours. This is pretty notable as it's one of the earliest examples of what we consider a concept album, because a lot of the songs deal with sadness and loneliness to an extent. And it does reflect that very much. A lot of songs are very slow and very moody, and I really like this one, but the moodiness does get a bit much after a while because some of the songs start to sound samey. But of course the singing is still very nice, but I definitely wanted a bit more, but still wanted to get this because it does have significance in history in terms of albums and music in general. So there's that, but the one I was definitely the most excited for was this one, and that is Strangers in the Night from 1966, so quite a while since In the Wee Small Hours. And this was basically his comeback album after being dormant. Well, he wasn't dormant, but wasn't as popular after the Beatles broke in. But he came in with this one, and I prefer this one, honestly. Love the title track. Summer Winds is great. You're Driving Me Crazy is good. Downtown, I like this version of that song. And yeah, it just has a great vibe. And it even has some keyboard playing, which I did not expect from a Frank Sinatra album. And it actually plays very well with the orchestration. So overall, this was a good one. If you want to check out Frank Sinatra's studio albums, this is one to check out. And now we have another one of these 5-in-1 packs. We have the original albums of Al Stewart. Now, the reason why I picked up this is because, for one, it came with 5, so it just made sense. But really, because one of the albums is part of our album exchange coming up, and it's going to be Adam's pick, and that one would be this one, Year of the Cat. So that's him. Again, I won't say what my thoughts on that one is for now. But it comes with his debut album, Bedsitter Images. Very solid album. Definitely has a very folk rock edge, but has a little bit of a Baroque pop thing, which I actually kind of dug. So that one's actually solid. Love Chronicles, also solid. Bit more folky, not as good as the first one in my opinion. Then we have Zero She Flies, and I'll be honest, my least favorite of these ones. I thought that was kind of boring. Didn't really stand out to me. But then we have Time Passages, which is the album after Year of the Cat. And all I'll say is that this is my favorite of these 5. Because, I don't know, because that has Time Passages, the title track. And I will say, so far, that's my favorite Al Stewart song. I like the keyboards on that one. Has a cool vibe. And Al Stewart, he has a solid voice. He's not like amazing or anything, but he's fine for what he does. And Time Passages, I feel, kind of really fit the tone of what he's going for. But overall, not bad. Not bad first impression. I wouldn't say I'm in love with Al Stewart after listening to all 5 of these, but hey, if you like that sort of folky sort of thing, you might dig this. And now we have more Taylor Swift. This is 1989. This was her big pop album from 2014, I believe, if I remember correctly. Yeah, 2014. And again, I'm planning my series on her coming up very soon. I'm almost done with the first scripts, so I should have that very soon, but just want to get more for the series, so there you go. Yeah, not going to say what my thoughts are. And now we have another album I picked up from Richard and Linda Thompson. Of course, I bought Don't Shoot Out the Lights. That was from 82. This came out 74. And I really liked Don't Shoot Out the Lights because I think that was a very good, kind of has some good guitar playing. I like the vocals between Richard and Linda. And so I picked up this one because many people say this is another big standout album for them. And I think it's pretty good. I mean, it starts out with When I Get to the Border, which is nice. The Calvary Cross. The title track is great. The Little Beggar Girl. The End of the Rainbow. That's a good one too. Yeah, I mean, I think I still prefer Don't Shoot Out the Lights a bit more, but still, this is very strong. I don't have much else to say about it really, but it's a very, very good album. I dug it quite a bit. I am hitting the mic a lot in this video. And now we have one of the more obscure albums and bands in my CD haul, and the band is called Toad, and this is their album, Toad. Now, if you don't know who Toad is, they are a Swedish band. They're a Swedish kind of blues rock, hard rock band. Some of their albums almost borderline getting towards heavy metal, but not quite. And this album was produced by Martin Birch, who of course has worked with many bands like Deep Purple, Black Sabbath, Iron Maiden, and so much more. And I've heard Toad quite a bit, and I wanted to check them out, so I went for their debut, and I'll be honest, I was amazed. This was a great hard rock album. The guitar playing is heavy, has a great tone to it, and the vocals are very cool too. I think the vocalists fit very well. The album's only 7 songs, but there's a lot of bonus stuff here, which is kind of cool. And yeah, of course you have the album cover, which has a toad on it, which pretty appropriate. But overall, this is definitely one you should definitely check out if you enjoyed what I described. Great guitar riffs, great drumming too, and yeah, it is very great. So there you go. That is my first impressions of Toad. And now we have Shania Twain with Come On Over. And this was another album exchange suggestion. This is by Jacob Martin, who is now joining our little group on that series, and this was his pick, Shania Twain. So again, not going to say what my thoughts are on this one, but yeah, definitely getting a bit more country in the collection now, and of course produced by Mutt Lange. Like, you would never think that. Of course, he's worked with like AC/DC, Def Leppard, etc., but you never think he would do something like this. Of course, I looked up that they were once married at one point, so I guess that makes sense. And we have Usher. We have Confessions. So yeah, I decided to pick up Usher for some reason, mainly because I wanted the song Burn, because that's like a very, it's a big hit for him. It's kind of like the big ballad of this album, and of course, it was also referenced in the Boondocks, which was very funny. But of course, I wanted to check the album out, and you know what? I really thought this was a great album. Like, no joke, I thought this was really good. I liked Usher's voice, and a lot of songs are very good, very catchy. Like, Yeah is like a good, I knew that song already, and that's a very fun song. Confessions, both part 1 and 2 is great. I also really like the song Do It For Me, kind of another like ballad, almost Prince type vibes. Like if Prince did a ballad, it'd probably be that. Sounds like Free almost. But yeah, it's another big highlight from this haul, honestly. Like, I was actually not expecting it to be that high on this album, but there you go. This was great. I might check out more Usher, honestly. And these next two are from the same band, and I've shown this band quite a bit in recent times, and that is Van de Graaff Generator. Picked up 2 more. I both found them at a record store. And first one I'll show is The Least We Can Do Is Wave to Each Other. This is a pretty notable album for them. I hear many people talk very highly of this album. And yeah, so far, I will say, this is my favorite Van de Graaff Generator album. Again, not that many songs, only 6 tracks plus bonus songs. But again, very cool. A lot of cool different time signature changes, a lot of great keyboard flourishes here and there. It's a very cool album. Yeah, not much else to say, but again, based on what I've heard from the band, again, this one kind of stuck with me a bit more. And this album's pretty solid too. We have World Record a little bit later. Kind of the same thing, but I still think this album was a bit better. Still, there's some great moments here too. Again, only 5 songs this time, and you have the big 20-minute song, which is actually pretty cool. But yeah, not much else to say about them. But again, I really dig Van de Graaff Generator. I'm digging what I'm hearing, and yes, I will get Pawn Hearts. I know that's probably their biggest album, but I'm still looking for that one, so give me time. So there you go. And now we have one more, but I'm not going to expose the identity of this one because I'm going to try to keep it hidden. But this CD is from an artist that I've been planning to make a video on, and I want to incorporate this album into the video. But for one, it's taking me a long time to do it, but also because there was a YouTube channel out there who actually reviewed an album from this artist, and I'm like, oh my god. That's what I wanted to do, but now I gotta wait a little bit more because it's a bigger channel than me. So, I don't want to record a video, release that video, not, too close to that one. Again, I'm keeping things vague, but that's what I wanted to point out. I still want to kind of show I do have this CD, but again, I'm not going to say who it's by because you gotta wait for that video coming hopefully soon this year. Yeah, it's almost in production, but there we go. And there you have it. That's all the CDs I picked up for the month of January. So we're definitely starting this year on a bang. Quite a lot to talk about here. And so in the comments below, you can let me know your thoughts on any of the albums I show. You can tell me what was your favorite out of all these. And if you want to share what you picked up this month, then feel free to. But overall, yep, it was a lot. I'm tired, and I can't wait to get some rest after this. But thank you once again for watching it. If you enjoy these CD haul videos, please give it a like. Subscribe if you are new. And until then, I will see you in the next video. Take care, and goodbye for now.